City couldn't sell out their semi-final allocation at Wembley. And Palace, they could have sold their allocation for this final 4 times over.
It's refreshing to see a club like Palace in with a shot.
Absolutely. I mean, I was getting a bit bored with Manchester derbies in the final. So, yeah, to have Palace, I mean, this is a club that's 164 years old and has never won a major trophy. The full Members' Cup, which was a short-lived competition for some lower division teams about 35 years ago, and the Surrey Senior Cup. Those are the only 2 pieces of silverware that they've managed to claim. So this would be a quantum leap for them. And it would also, it represents the hopes of so many fans of so many clubs who are similar to Palace in that they've existed and indeed they've thrived in many senses, but they've not annexed the trophies that they've always wanted. They've never really tasted the glory. I read a terrific piece by my NBC colleague Rebecca Lowe in The Athletic today. She's a lifelong Palace fan. She still when she does get across to go, which she is this week, she's made a special trip. She goes with her father, who introduced her to Palace when she was an 8-year-old. And it's almost a rite of passage. And so many clubs will be backing Crystal Palace for that reason, because Palace are living the dream of every fan of a club that's not one of the super teams in English football. So they're carrying quite a burden. There are 1 or 2 who want Manchester City to win because it opens up another European place potentially. Great, 8th might make Europe. I mean, it really is. It's getting ridiculous now where nearly half the Premier League are going to be playing in Europe. But that's a side issue. I think every neutral, everyone with a beating heart and any sense of sporting romance would want Palace to triumph this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that Rebecca Lowe piece in The Athletic, because I also saw the comments that you're talking about saying, well, I want City to win because it's another European place. And I'm like, why are we even here? Why are we even watching as a neutral? If you're wearing the sky blue of City, okay, go ahead, go with God. But
yeah,
I did love that piece, though, by Rebecca Lowe, where she talks about the rituals that she and her father would have before they went to the match, how they would walk down White Horse Lane, which runs right up against the old stadium, Selhurst Park, which, I mean, we talk about Goodison. I've been lucky to go to Selhurst Park as well. That is another, grand old ground where you can feel the history and the girders as you walk through. I remember you crank through the turnstile and it has that double metal clank, which is just so distinctive. It sticks in my mind. And that's another stadium, sort of like they used to say about Anfield before it was expanded, that it's built right into the grid of Croydon, of that area of South London. And as a result, it feels like very much a part of South London.
It does. It's reflective of the area that it sits within. It's desperately difficult to get to. That's the biggest problem in Selhurst Park. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any public transport within walking distance. The roads are an absolute nightmare. But it's worth it when you get there. And it's a far better experience now than it ever used to be. There are several supports at Premier League sides that have been sort of reinvented in recent times. And I would say that Palace is one. They've always had a sort of earthy backing, but the Holmesdale Fanatics are something else. And they've lifted the whole atmosphere at Selhurst to make it now one of the most intimidating places to go. Of course, the challenge for Palace is that they don't have that home advantage. They've got to go to the wide open spaces of Wembley. But what I think you will find is that there'll be a greater support for Palace numerically than for Manchester City, because City couldn't sell out their semi-final allocation at Wembley. And Palace, they could have sold their allocation for this final 4 times over. So I'm sure that any tickets that are going spare will find their way into Palace hands. So it should be tilted in their favour in terms of the number of spectators hollering at them. And I certainly give them a chance. Even though Manchester City are this decorated club with a marvellous manager with an almost unrivalled track record, I think you look at Crystal Palace and you look at what they've achieved, a record number of Premier League points now, and clearly upwardly mobile, and they've survived the loss of key players like Michael Elise and reinvented themselves. And Oliver Glasner, the biggest danger to Palace is that Glasner goes elsewhere. They're trying to negotiate a contract extension at the moment. But there's a couple of clubs in the Bundesliga back in Germany that would like him. And there are other teams in the Premier League, the one I can think of in North London, who've cast envious, covetous glances in that direction as well. I'm not talking Arsenal.
I know. Yeah, I speaking of that public transportation, I remember taking, I think it was a regional line a train line, and we got off the train, and it was a long it was a long walk, but there was a lot of people with us, and there was this sort of ancient path along the tracks for a while. We passed sort of a clubhouse of sorts for Crystal Palace fans built in there right along the tracks, and eventually you get into the old neighborhood of the row houses, and that was my first experience of that kind, because I'd been to the Emirates and you go to the modern stadiums, but this was the real deal, and South London's a fascinating place. I mean, it really is. People from all walks of life you'll find at Selhurst Park, people from all backgrounds all over the world with roots all over. It's a very cosmopolitan London experience as well.
Yeah, I think it's also one of those clubs where there's still some palpable form of relationship between the players and the fans, because they don't deal in superstars. They deal in more rounded individuals who maybe failed elsewhere and are grateful for the chance that Palace offer them. That's the market in which they have to shop. And because of that, it's a rather humbler existence being a player for Crystal Palace. And therefore that bond is still there, which used to be evident at every club. But now, with players earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a week and living in gated communities, if they're playing for one of the big clubs in the Northwest or for Arsenal or Tottenham or Chelsea, there's no connection. But with Palace there is, and that's one of the most attractive facets of clubs like that.